welcome back to Grad Girl Rambles. It's Brianna here with another video. Today's video is questions you should ask at your grad school interviews. So these questions are important because not only are you trying to impress the programs, they're also trying to impress you, and you want to make sure that you're making the right decision for yourself. So I put together 8 questions that I think are pretty important for your interviews. That's Storm, my cat. She's the one who knocked over the stuff in my last video. 8 questions that I think are important to ask in the interview, and I have them in 2 sections. The first 4 will be questions that are kind of faculty-based or like advisor-based, and the other ones are questions that you should probably ask other graduate students who are currently in the program. So let's get started. The first question that I think is really important, especially was really important for me, is what kind of funding can admitted students expect? So some programs who traditionally have funding will have funding packages with an acceptance letter. Some will say funding is on the way, and you won't know what funding you'll get until you accept your admission. And then some have no funding at all. Some programs are very transparent about that during interview day, and some are very tight-lipped, but there's nothing wrong with asking, especially if that is very important to how you're going to attend grad school. If they are not able to offer you any funding and you know that that is something that you need, that's really important to know. The second question that I would ask to an advisor is, where do your students usually end up after graduation? So this question is important if you have goals that either are aligned with kind of the mission of the program, or maybe they're a little bit different. So some programs, especially if you're like in a doctoral program, a lot of programs want their students to continue into academia, but some want them to go into practice, they want them to go into industry, but it's important to know what your options are. So in school psychology, if you're somebody who wants to get a doctorate, you want to have that research background, but you're really interested in practice, and you're interested in practice outside of schools, it would be pretty important to know whether or not this program will prepare you to get a job in like a community setting, in a hospital, in private practice. So those questions are very important to ask as well. That information is sometimes on websites. Sometimes they like to highlight sites where students end up after they've graduated, but if it's not, it's totally okay to ask that question. The third question I would recommend asking is if advisors encourage their students to collaborate either with other students, other faculty, other departments. So if you're interested, if you have like your specific research interest and everything's going really well, like in your lab or with your advisor, you can also collaborate with others in different departments. You can collaborate with other students in your program. You can collaborate with people who are outside of your university completely. But kind of depending on what your advisor's vision is for you might determine if you're able to kind of weave in those collaborations. So if you are looking to collaborate and network kind of broadly, it's really important to know whether or not your advisor would encourage that. Even if they don't, at the end of the day, it is your journey, so do with that what you will, but it's really nice if you have your advisor backing you on that. And then the last question I would ask a potential advisor is, what is your mentorship style? So there's no real wrong way to mentor, or let me take that back. There's definitely bad ways to mentor students, but you can definitely use different styles. Some advisors have like a very distinct way, like, oh, I'm very hands-on, or I'm very hands-off. I kind of give you tasks and let you do them. Some like to be kept in the loop at all times, but it's important for you to know what you would need out of somebody in terms of support. And even if you don't know what you would need, that's also okay. But I think it's important to know what you're going to get out of your advisors. Some advisors are really good at kind of changing their mentorship style for each student, which I think is really nice. But it's important to know and just ask that question ahead of time. Okay, now for the questions you can ask other students. This question is important if you're interested in continuing in academia. So for people who are in research-based programs, asking students how many publications or poster presentations they expect to have by the time they graduate That's a really great question. You can also ask like, how many do you have right now? And kind of depending on like what year they are in the program, it'll be different. But if you are interested in kind of continuing in that kind of setting, publish or perish is very real. And some advisors kind of have goals for their students, like, oh, by the time you graduate, you'll have this number of publications, or at least we'll submit this number, and then you'll have this many poster presentations. It's important to ask the students how many they actually have, because sometimes the advisor's vision does not always come to fruition. So just get a feel for how many permanent products students have kind of coming out of their program. The second question I would ask, which actually got me a lot of stunned faces when I was doing my interviews, was what experience in your program has confirmed that you made the right choice in choosing this program? People can definitely come up with some kind of vague answers, but I think it's really telling the way people respond to it. Some people, when I asked that, were like, oh, which it doesn't mean that they don't have one, but it's kind of like, okay, why did you like respond that way? And some people were like, oh my gosh, one time, and they just have it ready. And sometimes when people really like their programs, they have a million different reasons why they chose the right program. And sometimes if they're kind of just meh about it, they're kind of just like, oh, you know, it's really nice and people are really nice, which is a valid reason. But sometimes hearing about those experiences can also help you make your decision. And then the third question I would ask is, what is it like living in whichever city this program is in? Obviously that answer could change based on kind of like the function of where you are. So it might be in the middle of nowhere and there might not be a whole lot of things to do. But that question was really important for me, just because I have gone to school in different cities. I haven't gone to school in my home state since high school. And it's really important to know, like, what are the things that people do when they're not in, they're not in class? Like, what is there to do around here? Do you like it? Is it too cold? I have stated before that I'm in Michigan. I don't like cold weather, but I really like this program, so I'm here. So I have an answer for those people. But I'm very honest about what it's like in this area as well. And then the last question I would ask students is, what do students in your program do for fun? This is kind of tied to the last question, but it's a little bit more specific. Definitely proceed with caution if people cannot come up with an answer. If nobody in one program can tell you one thing that students like to do for fun, I personally would take that as a red flag, because that means that either you don't prioritize yourself or you don't have time because you're too bogged down in your work. And graduate programs are definitely a lot of work, but you should still be able to do something, even if it's not, going out like to a bar or a club. Like, you could have game nights. Like, I just want to hear that you are doing something other than your schoolwork. And I think that is really important. But those are the 8 questions I think that you should really consider asking in your grad school interviews. I think the interviews are definitely a very stressful period of time. Sometimes they're back to back, sometimes they're really spread out, some are really early, some are really late. But it's important to know what you're going to ask those programs, because you are not the only one trying to make a good impression here. If you're looking for more videos on information of things that you should look out for during your grad school interviews, I'm going to link a video below. Erica is another school psychology student in a doctoral program right now, and she recently put out a video about the things she wished she knew before her grad school interviews, and that information is very important, so I'm going to link that below, so check out that video as well. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and good luck with your interviews. Bye!